TTN-HD Production Live, here with Adipat Virdi, a Transmedia producer. Can you tell me a bit about Transmedia and what that means?
Sure. So Transmedia is a new way that the film industry is moving in. So with the current expansion of digital technology and social media, filmmakers are starting to realize that a linear narrative is not the way forward, that actually, people want to consume content on a lot of different platforms. So we have, new ways of filmmaking which involve content released and stories being released on, say, your mobile phone, your iPad, maybe a book is part of the overall cinematic experience or narrative experience. And that's what's being termed transmedia.
And what made you want to get involved in the industry? Obviously, it's changing and exciting, but in particular?
What I like about this is I've always wanted to write and make films, which I have been doing. But what appeals to me about Transmedia is that I have the opportunity to engage an audience on a lot of very different platforms. So storytelling for me is not just about writing a script. It's really looking at how the audience is going to perceive characterization, plot, the story world, and allows me to sort of experiment in a lot of different ways within the medium that I love being in.
Okay, so if somebody has a great story, would they come to you with a screenplay and then you suggest ideas as to how to market it?
Well, I suppose there is that as well, but the industry is moving in quite an interesting way, because obviously at the moment the model is you have a screenplay, you have a story, you market it, you distribute it, and you consume it. But you can either have that and use transmedia elements around the main story, or you can actually have a pure transmedia experience. And I suppose so in both cases people would come to somebody like myself. But there's a key distinction. In the first model, it's very much about the industry as it is, and adding to that experience using digital technology and social media. But in the second one, it's actually about taking the story that would be in the screenplay and distributing it across a lot of different platforms. So that is taking a while to sort of catch up. So let's see what happens. But I'm trying to deal with both.
Okay. So a lot of books that are very popular become made into films. I see like a huge trend with that, and there has been for a long time. Do you think that that will continue to happen, and how will that expand?
That's a good question, because adaptation of books is something that's quite staple within Hollywood and also within European film culture. But the book, especially now with sort of e-books and the whole way that a book is not just a set of words anymore. You can embed it with moving imagery or sounds and all sorts of other media. The book becomes part of the overall experience. In my own view, I think adaptation's always going to be important, because people are going to write great books, and you're going to want to tell that story on the screen. But I think the concept of a book, in terms of what it does, is changing. So it's all part and parcel of this story world, as it were.
And you have a website as well that you're using to promote Transmedia. Can you tell me a bit about that?
Sure. So it's called Transmediology, and the idea behind that is to look at the science of transmedia. It's a place where people are coming to either understand a bit more about transmedia and what it means, but also to sort of showcase their projects and allow us to build a community around transmedia and multi-platform storytelling. On Facebook, we've actually got quite a prevalent group under the same name, and that's becoming a showcase for the leading practitioners within the transmedia industry. And we're also starting to get mainstream commissioners and producers coming on board. And I think what's important about that is that this is not just a place to say, hey, I've done this project, or look at me. It's more a place where people can discuss and explore what is quite a new industry. If you were to ask anyone in the industry, what does transmedia mean? There isn't really a specific answer. So I'm hoping what this website and this group is about is really focusing in on how we can define this and use this to sort of forge a path for the future of filmmaking.
Great. And can anyone use the website and access it?
Anyone can access the website. I mean, the website's pretty new at the moment, but what we're looking to develop is a system of guest blogs. So there will be people and practitioners who are going to come on and tell us about, game design, app design, multi-platform filmmaking, and that's going to become a knowledge hub for where the industry is going. So yes, anyone can access it. So yeah, and I hope people will.
Okay, great. And what is the URL for that?
It's www and then transmediology.com. So, yeah.
So
Okay,
can
great.
you
Well, we'll
give me
definitely
a
have to check
practical example of how your work with transmedia can be applied?
Yes, of course. As we've said, transmedia is about multi-platform thinking and storytelling. So one of the projects that we've worked on is to look at a global issue. So we're looking at honor-based crime. For instance, in the UK, there were 17,000 reported cases of honor-based crime just in the last year. So what I wanted to do was to use transmedia and the fact that we're engaging audiences at their level. It's a peer-to-peer mechanism or platform. And I wanted to be able to say, well, can we use transmedia to engender social change? So we wrote a film and a transmedia project around eradicating honor crimes. And we were very fortunate because we were a finalist at the Sundance New Frontier Story Lab. We were in the last 12 out of 100 projects. And hopefully with that kind of momentum, transmedia can be used to really make ongoing change. So we're very excited about that as a way of applying the knowledge that we've learned.
Great. And when you say peer-to-peer, you mean people sharing on Facebook and sending through email, that type of thing?
Yeah, and I mean, that's a very good point, because what is now being termed Web 3 means that we have got to a point, it's almost a tipping point, where technology such as Facebook and Twitter and the social media platforms has become completely and utterly sort of ubiquitous. And we're starting to use that as a way of not just communicating, but taking action. So what I mean by peer-to-peer is the fact that audiences, the same people that consume the content, are creating the content. And that's actually a very powerful way of storytelling.
Okay, great. So we'll have to check out your website. And thank you so much for sharing all this information on transmedia producing.
Fantastic, my pleasure.
I'm Katie Allman reporting for TTN-HD Production Live.